Hello, hello. Here we are in another exciting day in the shop. Um, Today I'm going to do a very simple wiring job for a Strat. Um, it's going to be a very basic wiring job. Um, but first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who has liked and subscribed so far, because I got to end the year with right at 500 subscribers, which is that's kind of a milestone for me. I've never had or never done anything like this before, and getting to do this is kind of fun. And just knowing that I've been able to help some people and give somebody some advice and some things here and there has been good. I appreciate people taking the time. I appreciate comments. I really appreciate it when the comments are cordial and have been respectful. Um, and hopefully I get to continue to help some people with some stuff. I enjoy doing this. Today's video I'm just going to do all in real time. I'm not going to do a whole lot of editing because I want to be able to show step by step how I do a wiring job on one of these, or on this guitar. In the process of doing this, like I said, it's going to be a step-by-step tutorial. Keep in mind that nothing that I'm using, with the exception of one piece, is going to be new. Everything is used parts. Pick guards are used, pickups are used, all of the pots, they've been used. The switch I used in another guitar to test for a while. The one part that is going to be a new piece is this shielding, or this piece of shield. A friend of mine has these made, and I like these a lot better than I like the ones that I get from Fender, for two reasons. One, it's super stiff, and two, it's made out of stainless steel as opposed to aluminum, so it takes a lot more abuse. It'll be in stainless. In theory, it should never really corrode or patine, so you should never lose any conductivity through it as a ground. And three, another reason why I like it is, let me grab this over here real quick, the way how he has them cut. On a modern cut body, it has this juggernaut here as opposed to being cut straight across like on a 50s style Strat. And this fits around that quite nicely, whereas most of the ones I've gotten from Fender are cut straight across, and then I have to either file it off or use a pair of snips to cut it around that or something. Otherwise it sits up here like this and it raises the pick guard up just a little bit. So Steve over at Theris Innovations, thanks a lot for hooking me up with a few of these. I really appreciate them. If anybody's ever interested in these, check him out at therisinnovations.com. He does some really cool stuff over there. Today, like I said, I'm going to wire this up. If you look on the back, it already has foil on it, but I'm going to go on ahead and use this because you get a better connection with this. And then I'm going to go a little overkill on the grounding, because not only will I have the grounding through here, but I'm also going to ground it as if I didn't have this, just so you can see all the extra steps. If you have a pick guard that has the foil patch glued onto it, I don't recommend just trying to ground through the foil. It'll work for a while, but eventually I've seen them tear up pretty bad, and it's not worth the headache of having to go back in and redo it because something spun over time or it tore and lost its conductivity. So what I would recommend on something like that is just going ahead and either get one of these, or when you wire it up, use a piece of wire as a bus bar across all of them to get your ground all the way across it. So with that said, let's go on ahead and get started putting this together, and we'll go from there. So Next thing I like to do is just go ahead and get this stuff out of the way, because I'm going to wire the switch a little bit, wire the tone, and then I'll start bringing the pickup leads. Now when I put one of these together, I like to try to keep everything as nice and tidy and neat as possible for two reasons. One, it's just professional looking. Two, if I ever have an issue later on down the road where I have to get in and start troubleshooting something, it's a lot easier and a lot nicer to troubleshoot what's going on. Alright, when you wire up one of these switches, this is a typical five-way switch that you're going to see on a Strat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On a normal wiring, you're going to use both sides of the wafer, and you're going to have to connect this lug to this lug. And the reason why is because this side is used for the tone controls, this side is used for the volume controls, or vice versa. You can put your volume controls over here, your tone controls over here. But these two lugs will always tie them together. And the reason why is if you look closely, you'll see that this lug is longer than all the rest of them, and then the wafer on here slides from 1 to 2 to 1 and back and forth, but this one always makes contact. Where on the flip side of this, I can't get the camera down in there too well. It does the same thing, it just goes the opposite direction, so you're going to have to work. So you will bring a jumper from here to here, and then once the jumper is put in place, both sides of this switch will work simultaneously at the same together to control all the pickups. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my jumper from one to the other. So I'll start by tinning the wire. What I mean by tinning is I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on the end of the wire so that it will accept the soldering job over here easier and better. Same thing here, just a little dab will do you on it. The first thing I'm going to do is put it in that lug, let it set, cool, dry, bring it over. And there we have our jumper from one side to the other. So now both of these will always make contact. So next, have to decide or figure out which position is which. So all the way front is going to be neck, middle, bridge. Always remember that your switch on this side, you have to think backwards. So if you're in neck position, you're going to want the lugs that's going to go closest to the bridge of the guitar. So think backwards in that direction. So we're going to make this the one that the neck pickup will be soldered to, bridge pickup, and a neck pickup, middle pickup, bridge pickup. Then we'll figure our tone controls will be neck, middle, bridge. But like I said, we'll worry about these later. We'll worry about the tone controls now. So I'm going to get a capacitor to put on this, and then I'll show you how to wire up the capacitor, and then we'll wire the jumpers from the tone controls to the pots. All right, so I've got my everything ready. I'm going ahead and put the tone cap in. I'm going to use a 0.22 microfarad tone cap, which is it's going to go from this lug to this lug. Whatever's left over, I'm going to cut off, and then this leg is going to get soldered directly to the case. When I do this, I like to try to orient them to where you can see the numbers and the values on top as soon as you open it up and take a look if you need to. And always try to just work as neatly and cleanly as possible. So I still have a little solder left over in this pot lug, so I'm going to do that. Heat it up. Keep that moving because I don't want it to seal up on me. There we go. Let's set. Now when you solder these in, you want to make sure that this leg doesn't touch the case of either pot, and the reason why is because it's going to, if you do that, it will turn that pot into a volume pot and turn your volume down every time you go to use it. That's not what these pots are intended for. So I'll set that there to hold it in place for me. And we're going ahead and fill these eyelets. Here's one. There's two. All right, now when I solder to a case, a pot case, what I like to do is figure out where I'm going to solder it. Cut the leg off. Get rid of that. Let's go ahead and cut this other leg off since we have it. Now I'm going to move that out of the way a little bit because I'm going to make a solder pool. And then set the leg right on top of the pool, add a little more solder. That's done. We have a nice dry solder pool that's nice and shiny, has good adhesion. We're good to go. The next thing that I want to do while I'm here is I'm going to go on ahead and, like I said, I'm going to overkill this so that you can see all the steps. I'm going to put a piece of wire from this one to this case to this case and solder all of the cases together. In the process, I'm also going to hard solder this this lug directly to the case, which is what makes the volume pot do what it does. When you turn it down, it shunts the volume, or shunts all the signal back to ground. So I'm going to start with cutting my wire length. Okay, what I like to do when I do this is I like to keep the wires covered. That way, in case anything were to ever shift inside or something, it's less apt to ground the ground against it. I've run into some issues with that before. So that's going to be this bus wire. This bus wire is going to be covered, and then so that'll be there. The next one, what I'm going to do is actually bring it through this lug and put it and ground it here. So I'll ground it to the lug, I'll ground it to the case. You can also, and you see it done all the time, you can also bend this lug back to the case and solder it in place. Works just fine, there's nothing wrong with it. I do it all the time myself. It's been a great method for almost 100 years now, so let me but that's just not how I'm going to do it on this one. So tin this wire first. Every time I solder to a pot case, I tin the wire. The reason why is because it really does make a big difference in how quickly this wire will accept the solder into it. And the faster you can get it to accept it with high heat, the easier you are on the wafer inside. And it's also why I tin the pot case before I start too. Make a solder pool. Just like that. And I'll work off of this pool that's already here for this one. So since I already have that one established, I have to drag this one over just a hair. There we go. Start with the lug. Touch that up, it moved. There we go. Let that cool. And then straight into the case. Okay, now I think I can go on ahead and start tightening these down just a little bit. There we go. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run my, from up here where our jumper was, I'm going to run a wire off of this down to this lug. And then I will put the output wire and ground onto the pod. Let's put this in here to hold it in place again. Tin this wire, or this side of the wire. And then there we go. Now that that's in place, there's a little extra wire sticking up there I don't want there, so I'm going to go ahead and trim that. It's gone. All right. Normally when I wire a Strat for myself, I like to have a tone control on the neck pickup and on the bridge pickup, but I like the sound of a middle pickup wide open with no tone control. When you buy one from Fender, typically you'll have tone control on the neck and on the middle, and they leave the bridge wide open. Then you'll see a lot of people do the mod where you'll come in and put a jumper from the bridge lug to the middle lug, so that you have tone control on the two of them, which is what I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to put a tone control on the bridge and the middle together, and one for the neck separate, and we'll find that we'll have tone control on all three this way, but with only 2 pots. So I'm going to start by working the bridge tone. And again, like I said, you have to think backwards when you're doing this. So the bridge tone is going to be this wire going from this lug. Actually, I'm going to put it from this lug over to this pot. And then the other one will be, well, from this lug, it'll be on these 2 lugs here, I'm sorry. It'll be on these 2 lugs to this pot, and then the other one will go from the front lug to the other pot, sorry. I like to work with 1 wire if I can whenever I'm doing this kind of work. That way it's 1 less joint each time that you have to worry about coming apart. So 1 solid wire through it makes for a better connector, makes for a better connection, I should say. It does make it more of a pain if you ever have to take it apart and make some changes, but little solder in the eyelet on the lug, a little solder on the end of the wire. We have another good solder joint. All right, so that one goes bridge and middle. Next one will be for the neck pickup. Whoop, cut that one too short. Okay, there we go. I know I could use a soldering finger to hold this, but I only got so much space to work with here in the camera, so I didn't want to have to move everything around over and over and over. So sometimes a little improvisation is not a bad thing. So okay, so now we have the volume hooked up to the switch, the bus bar across all three of them. We've got the tone circuits wired in with a 0.22 microfarad cap to cut the treble. The next thing I'm going to do is I always like to use a shielded wire, a braided shielded wire on mine when I install these. So I'm going to cut a piece of it off of this roll, and then there's two reasons why I like doing this. It's super easy to run through the hole that on a Strat that goes into the output cavity, and two, it's really easy to solder on to the onto the pot case and get into the output lug at the same time. The output lug on these is always going to be the middle, so when you turn it down, it'll shunt the output to ground. The from the switch to the pot is always going to be this lug closest to the pot, and then the ground will be furthest from the pot. Again, a little improvisation instead of, since this is cloth covered wire underneath of the shielding, a nice little razor blade does the trick really well to cut it. There we go. So, shielding, which is going to be the ground, center is going to be the output. So that'll go right there. All right. So like I said earlier, anytime I ground or solder to a pot case, the wire that I solder to it will get tinned. And this shielding, this braiding is actually quite a bit of wire, so you want it to absorb as fast as possible. Same thing. This time I think I will get it. I'll just use this instead. And there we have it. Soldered solid, not moving anywhere, nice and shiny. Go ahead and trim the end of that off, just because. Now the next part of this is to put each one of the pickups back on. Okay, these pickups are Duncan designed SE 101s, which are supposed to be, I believe, the overseas equivalent from Seymour Duncan of the SSL2, I believe. So this is the match set. So middle is also reverse wound, reverse polarity. The only thing I don't like about these that I'm going to have to change is that there's only that much lead to run a ground, and that's not going to work for me on this setup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shrink wrap off of these, and then once the shrink wrap is off, I'll be able to give myself more lead to go from the switch to the back of the pot case, and we're going to ground all three of them on this first tone pot. And since these also have shielded, it's the other thing about these that I don't care a whole lot about, is they shield the cable for it, but then they don't give you a way to ground the shield too well. So we're going ahead and shield this cable too. Okay, so this is neck. We're going to go, again, thinking backwards, to the back side of the switch. Pull this off, give us a little more to work with. And again, we're going to tin the wire. So like I said, tinning, it also does one other thing. Any little stray hairs that you may have sticking off of this wire, I've seen one stray hair completely, one tiny little strand coming off of one of these wires, ground and completely shut down a pickup. Come on, get in there. And we don't want to see that happen on this, because then you have, when you switch into that position, you have a complete no sound. So what I would rather do is, so what happens when you tin it, it stops those little strands of wires from splaying out everywhere on you and keeps them under control. Well, wouldn't you know it? I grabbed the short lead thinking it was that one, because they should have all been the same length, and I was wrong. I grabbed the bridge, so we're going to have to move that from there to there, which is an easy fix. And there's one of those little tiny hairs that I was talking about, so let's take that off. Grab a next one, I believe, yep, this one is the neck. So again, now a lot of these pickups you won't have to do this kind of cutting with. If you're looking at like Fender pickups, or even real, I say real, but like the American-made Seymour Duncans, you're not going to have to go through and cut these off and ground them, because they normally don't use these shielded cables like this. They will normally use a just a 2-wire system on them. Okay, neck. Just clean that tip a little bit. Lost it. There we go. And now for the middle. So you saw me use the snips earlier to strip the wire. And the only reason why I would do that is because my wire strippers don't go as small as these, but as you saw there, I can also do it with my thumb and just pull a little extra wire, or a little extra wire cover off with my thumb and not do a whole lot of damage. Extra hair sticking off there. Let's get you off. There we go. All right, now the last thing to do is to clean up what's going to be inside the cavity, tie that down. This is the part that I always find to be the most annoying part of a job like this, is just making sure that it's, you know, evenly pretty. You got to make sure it's going to fit, and it's going to, you know, you definitely don't want it to just kind of be jammed in there and looking like a 5-year-old did the job. You know, I very easily could have cut these shorter and made it even prettier yet, but I know a lot of people like to keep the length on them so that you know, if they were to ever take it out, they could put it into another guitar without having to go back and re-lengthen the wires or anything to that effect. So I would rather just keep it nice and neat with what I have. And there you have it. Neck pickup wired to the neck lug, middle pickup to the middle lug, bridge pickup to the bridge lug. All of our grounds neatly in place. The only thing left to do to this would be to hook it up and test it, which I can do here in a minute. I'm going to strip this ground back just a little bit, and then and the other nice thing about these grounds, while I'm at it, is when you solder them to the jack, you lay one here, wrap the other one around, and run it through the hole on this side. Now you have a nice, neat, even place for your wire to be out of the way and not getting caught into the jack or into the tip of the cord every time you go through. Just go ahead and put a set of knobs on this. Here's one. I've got these others that are kind of pretty, actually. Okay, time for the tap test to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. All I'm doing is I'm holding the two parts of the wire onto the switch, or onto the cable. Everything works like it should. At the beginning of the video, I said I was going to have something special to do with this video today. So what I'm going to do is I want to give this pick guard away. anyone who contacts me through my website, which you can find in the description below, contact me through that. Give me your email address. Tell me what day you saw this video. I will put everybody's name into a pot, draw a winner from the people that have contacted me. It's kind of a way of saying thank you for 500 subscribers, a little bit of a celebration for me. Again, thank you for sticking through everything and watching me as I can be boringly descriptive. I really appreciate it, and thanks again, guys.